Hello again. Okay, so RP2040, we got parts laid out, and we still need traces. So my grid size is set, I need it pretty small. Let me get that set down to really small. And then I'm going to start in the lower left corner down here. And up here we've got traces, edit predefined traces. Okay, so let me add some traces. The company I'm working with sets a limit of, well, that's in inches, so let's go for 6 mils for the smallest stuff. Let's see here. Let me add another one of, let's go for twice that. 12 mils, and I'm going to add a 20 mil. And I'm going to add 24 mil. I know we may not use all of them, but we will see. And then let's see, design rules, minimum track width. Since I set a 6 mil, I better set this one to 6 mil also. Otherwise it'll give me an error right off the bat. Okay, so now when I go in to do a trace, you know, and I'm going to move parts around, I'm going to move labels around, we're just going to move everything. This is our the micro USB connector here. So we're going to just start with that. And the other number that you want to watch is clear down here in the corner. It says unrouted. It says 105. And the goal is to get that down to 0. And, you know, it'll be interesting. So let me just start off with these ground traces. I mean, there's a whole bunch of ground pins in here. And up here in the corner, we've got the running traces. And I'm going to pick a trace. Let me just pick 20 mils to start with, and you can see that the cursor jumps to a trace, and we can just run these through really quick. Nothing too fancy about these. Now when I go to do this one, well, that'll still work too. Sometimes a trace is a little bit too big, it starts impinging upon the space of the next one, and that causes a problem. And now if I try to come out here, it says it won't let me. Because this 5-volt line, the trace widths are not allowing that. So I have to come down narrower. Let's see, can I get 12 to fit on that? Now click on that again. I want to run a trace from here. 12 mil will work. And so we'll just run that right to there. Okay, so now let me, and that needs to go to the regulator. Okay, so we'll just run it up there. Okay, so already that's down to 96. So some of this stuff is really quick. This part of the game goes very fast. Okay, so I've got the switch up here. I mean, all that looks pretty good. Let's just go ahead and keep wiring this stuff in. For powers and grounds, I do want to use as big as I can. I'm going to actually flip clear up to 24 because there's nothing else in here. And I can't quite get there. Let's see what. Okay, sometimes you just have to draw it from the other direction down to 94. Now, I need to go from here and actually start taking the ground up to the other side. And I've still got traces to go here. I got to watch these that have to come out. Let's try 24. Ground should be really pretty heavy in general. So we're just going to come out with this. And I'm going to type a V key. And that puts in a via. So I can jump to the other side of the board. And I'm just going to do that. And so now these other parts don't bother me too much. And I'm keeping in mind that I've got a button that's got to connect there at some point. I'm going to connect to here. And I'm going to do a via again and put a via there take me back to the other side and come in the other way. Okay, so there's that. Got a bunch of grounds up here. Do I want to run it that way, or I've got grounds everywhere. So let me just keep working my way around. Now I've got this trace here that has to go over. And that's a signal. That's just whether a button's pressed or not. So we can drop down to the really thin stuff for this. And I want it to come off on the top side. So we'll do that. Now the other side of the button, it's going to have to go this way. And I really can't run it that way very far before I run into another trace. I'm going to come over here off the pad and put another via. And then just come over here, and I'm just going to bring it out, and I'm just going to terminate right here for the moment. I just want to make sure that as I work my way out that all of these traces can make it. That becomes the really important part. I still got these two. Okay, let me just get those since they're also 6 mils. Let me just come over here. I want to stay up pretty high. This one has to come in. And it'll keep me from making major mistakes in places. Now those are going up to the micro. I'm going to leave that for a minute because if I have to shift the micro by a few millimeters here or there, that'll kind of get me in trouble. So let me just work my way on up this side a little bit farther. We've got the ground trace already coming up to here. It needs to go up to here. Let's go back up to the thick trace for the ground of 24. Let me do that. Okay. Now we've got all these. Well, I've got a resistor here that's part of the, this is the LED. This will be blinking red, so this is the LED for that. Let me drop the size back down. LEDs take 20 milliamps. Not even that. We're just running 2 or 3, actually. So that'll be fine. And I need to get that to the micro also. So I'm going to leave that for a little bit, as long as I stay out of the way of everything. Now, this ground has to get up there eventually, and also to here. Let me just hit the escape a couple times, move this this capacitor that's the bypass cap for the memory chip over a little bit so I can get that in nice. Again, we're going to go back to the ground for a bit. Let me just tell it I want to do a trace, and I'm just going to come in here. And this one also has to be, notice that it won't get in my way. It'll always maintain that clearance. So I'm fine by just kind of cramming it in there any which way it'll go. That's down to 83. The switch doesn't really have any power. Let me go back to a thin trace. And let me just leave it where it's at because it's not going to cause me any grief here. Oops. Now my 3-volt supply needs to get up to here also, and this accelerometer's, that's got little teeny parts on it, and that's going to force us to a finer trace. And all these have to come out. So if I move them, well, let's see, how do we want to get these out? I need to make sure I get all these traces out. And where's my 3.3? There's my 3.3. So I need that to come out too. Let me get that 3.3. That causes me a little more grief than the others. Make it big because I can. I'm just going to come over here. And what I'm looking at is I can't really go to the other side yet until I get up here. I got to get past this little trace down here. So let me just do that. hit a V for a via. So now I'm on the other side. And that being the case, I can just come this way and have another via and then connect it in. Okay. So that takes care of the power for the memory chip. And I think I've got enough room to get all these guys through. And they're all going to have to go on the bottom. So it'll be a little bit of a mesh coming across. And this one for the LED goes really low. So let me just run that one. Again, it's going to have to flip sides. Back to 6 mils. This one. And I'm just going to bring it down, put a via, and there's my other side. You can see where it needs to go. So I can just bring it over here. Let's do another via. Click that. And I'm going to leave it. As I said, I don't really want to connect things to the micro till I'm ready. Now I've got this power and this ground for the 3.3 volt capacitor here. So I'm going to hit the escape. I think I want to move that just a little bit. I need to keep it low enough that we can do some things, but that may not be the best orientation. I guess it doesn't really make much difference. Okay, so what I want is a thick trace because it's power and ground. I'm going to take the, have to tell it trace, and I'm going to say I want to just go to there's fine. The ground's a little bit messier because I want to put it by the ground of the regulator, but I can't go this way because that's all blocked. But if I come over here, I can certainly put another via, and that's going to be ground, and click that, and now it's just connects into everything else. Okay. So we're down to 78. Now, this memory chip is my next thing. I'm just, as I said, I'm trying to keep all these traces coming out to where I can reach where they go. So these all need to come out over in here somewhere. And I think I'll just bring them out to do that and then leave them bare. So let me stay with the, but these are all just signals, so they can be really, really thin. And let's see, how do we want to do that? You know, I think the micro will just have to stay where it's at. And then that's fine. So I can start connecting these things in because I think that'll, you know, because these are all the connections right in here that go to the memory chip. So if I just start working my way around with those, it should be just fine. I've got power coming into here. Notice that these traces are really, really thin. The pads are 0.4 millimeters apart, so they're tight. So I can't, you know, I can't get too big here. How big can I get? Can I get to 12? I can't even do 12. Let me start off with 20. And I'm going to come over here like this. Because the micro could take a lot of power. I don't think it really does. But, you know, so I'm just going to come over here a little bit closer like that. And then I'm going to switch it down to 6. Oops. And I want 6. There we go. So the goal is to keep the traces as wide as we can for the powers and grounds until the last bit. And it'll be fine. Resistance is pretty low that way. Okay, I've got the button line that comes in there. That one, you know, that's as good as any place. So let me continue that one. You know, I want to, let me delete that little stub off there. Then I come in here. And I need to be on the other side, so we'll do a via. Okay. So the button's connected. We've got an LED to connect. Let me just connect that in. Okay, there's a bunch of wires that go up to the IRDA. That might actually move. Won't get to that in this shot. Let's see if we can get the memory connected at this point. So I've got these set of wires that need to connect over. There are a couple here that are the IRDA, and those might actually, yeah, that's the I2C interface. These two here, and I might move those two over here if I can. I'll look that up offline, and then we'll see if we can move it. But the memory's got to be on these particular wires. So let me just start on the bottom one, and 6 mils. That okay? So we can just start right here, and that one just goes straight up here. There's no reason not to just leave it pretty tight. This one, oh, it's going to go right up to the next one. So let me just do this and just come straight over and see what that goes. Let's go to the next one. They're so far they're being good to me. There's that one. That one's ground. Now we've got these three that have to come in. And sometimes when I do this, I figure out I should have done it another way. Okay, so that one goes clear up there. So that's fine. I'm going to come clear up here and hit a V for via. Hit another V, put that there. Okay, there's 71. Let me grab the next one. That one goes down there, so I need a via somewhere over here. Let me just, okay. Not too difficult. Okay, let me put one here. I gotta put a via in. Okay, so that's not too shabby. We've got, we're down to 69 traces. Pretty much everything out of here is as long as the rat's nests are gone, clear to the edge of the board, nothing else has to cross it. So everything should be fine. Up here I've got one trace that needs to get to an interesting spot. It's got to go up to this MCS line. That's got to go up there yet. That's a little tricky, but not that bad, because I mean I can come in here. Can I get a trace between two pads? I can. Okay. If I can get this in between those two pads, and it will let me do that, that means that I can move this guy a little bit. So let me delete this. And let me put in this trace here. You know, I've stretched that too far. Let me do that just a little differently. Erase that. Okay. So now I want to put a trace in. This guy can go come up here. There, didn't even need a via. Now I got to fix this guy that it broke. There. That's not looking too bad. So we're just working our way around. These USB lines must go where they are. So I need to figure out how to get those traces over there. And I can't put any vias. I don't know, can I get a via in there? Maybe so. Let me try this, just more of an information. Let me go back to a 6mm trace. The RP2040's kind of got a pain with doing that. I can put a via in there. Okay. So that's good. So I can come down here. I just want to make sure I don't lock myself out in other areas. I've got these other traces that need to go, but these two traces are part of my USB, so those have to go in. So let me, if I can get them over here, I could come up with some blue traces and get to them also. And that probably would be, that could work, but that really locks out these guys. I'll have to think about that a little bit. Okay, so let me just do it and then see what the ramifications are. Okay, so there's this one, and I want to come in and I want to go to a via and just lock it there. And then I want to come down at an angle. And I'm going to just stop that there. And then this other one, that's the other one here. Let me put a, why don't you let me do that? There we go. Okay. And these can be, the zoom is funky on these things. Okay, so zoom comes down to here. Okay, so let me put in these last two traces, and then we'll be just from here to here. So that's not so bad. So I can start from here and do a via and do that. This one, I can come in this way, come up here, do a via, and do that. Awesome. That's probably a good place to stop at this point. So we will continue on in a few minutes.